Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand on the appeal as presented to you and the members of the LDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Okay, I now open it up to questions to the appellate from the LDC members. Keeping in mind, I've got a 2-minute time limit overall here, and you should try to observe that. Are there any questions to Mr. Wyatt?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I notice that there's no appeals cover sheet that the party recommends. Why is that? The cover sheet specifies.
I cannot answer that question. I do not know.
That would be a question for the appellate, I believe.
Are there any other questions of Mr. Wyatt from the members of the committee?
I do have one here. In one part of the appeal, it is objected to everything that happened in the beginning of the meeting began on April 27th and was adjourned to April the 29th and then until May the 1st. Yet at another point, you acknowledge that the adjourned meeting was reconvened and business was conducted on April 29th. Clearly, if the chairman had properly adjourned the meeting on the 27th, then he wouldn't have returned on the 29th, the chair meeting which he'd already adjourned. He also would not have accepted the motion that was passed in his absence and restart the meeting at the next agenda. Can you explain these conflicts in the argument?
Mr. Wyatt?
Mr. Chairman, I stand on the appeal as presented, and we would like to, all the members that participated in the mass meetings and the convention, their votes be counted and not disenfranchise the many members that are registered as delegates and those folks that participated in the mass meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Are there other questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, to determine what actually happened on May 4th, it is important that we get all the relevant facts about the meeting and how it was set up. On April 27th, the LDC was told the convention was at Hanover High School and that there was a budget of just over $2,000. And then on the 29th, we were told that it had to be moved and maybe we could do it at Atlee High School. The LDC passed a motion that Mr. Miller could not sign any contract or obligate the LDC to any spending. Later, Mr. Miller circulated an estimated budget of over $8,000. I move that the chair, Tom Miller, be required to provide copies to the committee members of all bills, receipts, contracts, invoices, and other paperwork associated with the events at Hanover and Atlee High Schools on May 4th, including a specific accounting of checks, cash, and other forms of payment, including the name and address of anyone who paid these bills or provided in-kind services.
A rule of motion to be out of order on the following basis. This committee declared the convention canceled, and this committee established a canvas. So I am not about to provide that information to you because you said that the convention was canceled.
So we didn't have a convention.
You heard what I said. I'll stand up what I said.
Well, that just validated what I heard you say.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I move to overrule the chair's decision.
There's a motion to overrule the
There's a
chair
second.
under Robert's rules.
second.
We don't need a second, Jim. Under Robert's Rules of Order, we do not need a second. Is there discussion on the move to overrule the chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we're here this morning to hear an appeal. I'm not sure that that's on our agenda. I don't wish to comment on whether it's valid or not, depending on who you ask and what day you ask and what event you're talking about. There's also a general call been put out for this second procedure, and prior to that, and as of May the 13th, they had no contract and they had no insurance, but that's not why we're here today. We're here today to hear this appeal, and I think that we should root on the merits of it. If we get bogged down into something that's not on the agenda, that's not why we're here. So a question was germane to this conversation, and I ask that we stick to the agenda and talk about the appeal, and if we're going to either uphold it or turn it down. That's just my point of order and question.
Mr. Chair, I may have the floor.
Go ahead, John.
We are here to hear an appeal, and at some point, we're gonna have to either take a vote on whether to accept this appeal or deny it. And if we don't do that within 30 days of being notified, it will be assumed to be a denial, and this will pass to the first district. However, in order to consider this appeal in its entirety, as you said, this is somewhat like a court case. So knowing the details of this, of what transpired in our committee meetings, and having it in writing, knowing who paid for this convention, if that indeed is what it was, and having an accounting, it's all part of the package that goes together to consider this appeal. The appeal is one side of this story, and we need to put together the other side of this story. It should be done here. Even if we decide to deny the appeal, when it goes to the first district, it should go with all the information that we can gather. And I do not feel like the request is out of order. Matter of fact, as I know it's not.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, these details have been known. These questions, for them to come up at this moment, at this time, is, in my opinion, a method, and its intent is to delay and not to hear the question in front of us. We are here to hear this appeal, and we have, as far as I'm concerned, two choices. We can say we can go up or down. We get involved in the minutia, it becomes an exercise in how not to hear the question.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
With all due respect, there are a lot of details here that are not known, a great deal known, and they need to be known. And it needs to be known who paid for this convention, if that's what we're going to call it, because if we vote to approve this appeal, then we're going to be certifying this convention is the results of our nominating process, and its legitimacy is as much in question as anything else. And again, I think that this information should be known, and see no reason why it shouldn't.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, once again, I'd just like to say that I think these motions are irrelevant to this appeal. We need to stick to the business that we've all come out here on a Saturday morning to hear. Again, you can come up with 1,000 minutia questions but what we're here today to discuss and to decide is the merits of this appeal that's in front of us. And I feel like they're out of order. These questions, that they're meant to delay us and so that we might not make a decision. So I ask that we discharge. We've all been through too much of this. It's time for it to be over. Those facts, whichever you come up with, would be irrelevant. I ask that we deliberate on the appeal itself. Thank you.
Jim?
Requesting a full accounting is not out of order. It is not out of order.
I'll make a comment before we call for the question. The appeal was received by me on the 9th of May. I sent the appeal out to all the members of the committee. I have not gotten any questions whatsoever from the members of the committee since it was sent out. Just so everybody in this committee knows that asking for a full accounting, which I will abide by whatever this committee decides, was not surfaced to me as an issue at any time up until right now. So let's call the question. Those in favor of requiring the chair to provide a full accounting of the expenses associated with the convention that was held on the 4th of May at Catholic High School. I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Jenkins?
I vote aye on a full accounting.
Mr. Hubbard?
Aye.
Mr. Daniel?
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. Any other questions regarding the appeal to Mr. Wyatt or his representative? Okay.
I have no questions for the appeal. It's quite clear.
Okay.
But I do have something that I want to add to this, with your blessing.
Sure, go ahead.
The contest and appeal of Mr. Wyatt provides in a number of cases different facts than those witnessed by other attendees at these events. It's very important that we have an accurate account of what happened in these key meetings. So we're having these meetings transcribed by court reporters to compare with the allegations of the appeal. Although this will take a few days, I believe that after we have this information in Mr. Miller's records of the events at Atlee High, we'll have a much better position to make a decision about this appeal. At this point, I would like to make a motion. I would move to postpone consideration of the decision on this appeal until June the 5th, 2019. For the convenience of this committee, we have checked to see if we can get the library at 6:30 p.m. at Upper King William Branch Library on Sharon Road in King William, or an alternate site.
What was the date, John?
June the 5th, 2019, 6:30 p.m.
June 5th at 6:30?
I second the motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Time out, wait a minute. I haven't given anybody the floor other than John.
Yes, sir.
We don't need a second. But if you want to give a second, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, June 5th, 6:30, and you'll find a site, and that site will be a public site, like the library, something like that, John?
Yes, sir. We already preliminarily, with this committee's approval, did get the Upper King William Branch Library, which we've been at before, at 694 J. Sharon Road in King William, Virginia 23086. If the committee would prefer an alternate site, we'd certainly entertain that.
Okay. If this motion passes, I would just ask that you provide that in writing to the members of the committee.
We will. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Daniel.
I'm going to say that no matter what we come up with, whatever the detail, this is a tactic, a parliamentary tactic, so that the question's never heard. So based on that, I'm going to make an accessory motion that we just postpone. Give me, yeah.
Okay.
I make an accessory motion that we postpone the question indefinitely, since the purpose of this is never to hear it to begin with. That's my motion, my accessory motion, which I believe gets voted on first.
Mr.
Thank you.
Jenkins, can you clarify Robert's rules regarding an accessory motion for us, please?
Point of question, did we establish a parliamentarian prior to the
No, we
start
did
of this
not.
meeting?
No, we did not, so
Okay.
I know you're well qualified, so I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Excuse me, Tom, could you ask people to speak up a little bit as we're
Yes, sir.
trying to follow the conversation?
Okay.
It's a little hard
All right.
for some of us.
The question that Mr. Jenkins is looking up is how do we deal with an accessory motion? I know how to deal with a substitute motion. And the question is it dealt with first, Jim?
Can vote on just no. Go back to your letter. You're not allowed to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I would consider, if you know a substitute motion, if you understand that, even though it's my understanding that the accessory motion gets heard first, but I believe the substitute motion gets heard first, I will change my motion to a substitute motion. If
Okay,
indeed it's
I
heard
do understand
prior
how
to
that
the
works.
question.
So there's been a substitute motion to pass by the appeal indefinitely. So we'll deal with the substitute motion before we deal with the other motion, and then may make the other motion.
You're looking to postpone to a certain,
Indefinitely, because I mean, that's our purpose. You know what? We have
Postpone
met
indefinitely
14, 15,
requires
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
It
I'll-
requires a
Wait a
second.
minute. The chair will control who speaks, otherwise we're gonna get in.
I'm sorry, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Jenkins.
Okay, I apologize. To postpone indefinitely, which is a subsidiary motion, requires a second.
A second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's a motion to, a substitute motion to postpone indefinitely addressing Mr. Wyatt's appeal. Is there a second? There being no second, the motion dies for lack of a second in accordance with what Mr. Jenkins has just determined in Robert's rules. So now we go to the Mr. Hubbard's motion, which was seconded to readdress the appeal on the 5th of June at 6:30 at a public site to be determined, and Mr. Hubbard will provide that information. So is there discussion on the motion to delay hearing the appeal until June 5th?
Mr. Chairman, once again, purpose of this motion is to make sure that the question is never heard. This is a parliamentary tactic, and so it's only meant to delay. We could make it June 5th the next 5 years. We've met 18 times already. I'm being facetious, but we've met way more. And if there's anything that you want to know prior to this meeting, you've had ample time, and you've been given all the information, you've been given the appeal. But to come here at this late date, and again, we're just wasting everybody's time, is an essential saying that we will not hear the appeal. This is a no. I know it's a parliamentary procedure, and thank you for my chance to comment.
The only thing that I would add to that under discussion of the motion is that I can have what the committee has voted to produce regarding the expenses associated with the convention held on the 4th of May. I can have that tomorrow to all of you if that would change your motion to expedite the process to hold the meeting. I don't have any idea how long it would take to do whatever transcripting that John mentioned, but I can assure you I can have the cost information tomorrow. Any further discussion?
This would be a specific accounting?
I don't know what specific means.
Well, all bills, receipts, contracts, invoices, and other paperwork.
It'll be everything
That was-
I have.
That was what I had asked.
It'll be everything that I have to date associated with the expense of the convention.
Would it qualify as a full accounting?
It'll be a full accounting as far as I'm concerned. You'll have
For a
to
third party,
you'll
it'll
have
be
to
a
be
full
the
accounting.
judge of that after you get it. I mean,
Mr.
I
Chairman.
have no intentions of hiding anything.
Mr. Chairman, he's talking about a third party. You know what? You're trying to cooperate, give him information, but if you talk about having a CPA firm between now and tomorrow, today's Saturday, tomorr's Sunday, ain't gonna happen.
I did not suggest that.
Forgive
I'm
me,
saying
sir, I
would
didn't
is
Okay, let's get back in order. Mr. Jenkins, you have the floor, sir.
I've already stated my
Okay.
motion, sir.
Okay, so, I can tell you is I'll do the best I can. If it's insufficient, you can come back to me and say it's insufficient for the following reasons, and I'll accommodate. But I've been in PTAs and a lot of organizations where I've done that, so, I'll do the best I can. That's all I can promise you. And I'll have it sometime tomorrow to all the members of the committee. So, Mr. Danny.
Do we have another meeting scheduled on Monday morning to hear the same question, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? And again, what effect will that have if we put it out beyond the date? I mean, if you have the information and you give it to these people, as you said, prior to Monday, if we go through with the motion, I mean, why would this be germane? We're here to hear the appeal. They're saying that they won't accept it, and it's clearly what it is. It's a tactic to delay.
Okay, I think we should close the discussion, and is there a motion to close the discussion?
I so moved.
Yes, sir.
Do we need a second on that one? Yeah. Okay, there is a second. There is a second to close the discussion, and
do, sir.
would you repeat the motion one more time for the benefits of the audience, John?
Okay, and I move to postpone consideration of the decision on this appeal. And at this point, I would like to say this. We did come here to hear an appeal. Mr. Wyatt stated that the appeal would stand as written, and so we accept that. And so that, to me, was the primary purpose of this. Did not come prepared to vote on it with more information. So I would like to back that up. But I move to postpone consideration of the decision on this appeal until June the 5th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. Currently, we have it scheduled at the Upper King William Branch Library at 694 J Sharon Road, King William, Virginia, 23086, or an alternate site as the committee sees fit.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Hanover,
Aye.
King William,
Aye.
New Kent,
No.
the ayes have it, the motion carries. Is there any further business?
I move to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.